Okay, so automaticity sounded kind of like a benefit, right? Like maybe I could process these things without having to really put any effort into it. Um, why can't everything be automatic? Well, there are some problems with it. One problem with automaticity is what we call a capture error. We may have overlearned a task. We'll call that well practiced. Um, and that action that we have overlearned takes over when we were trying to do something else. So a well practiced but unintended action takes over when it shares an initial sequence element with a more familiar action. So if you have overlearned something and that's not what you want to do right now, you may start doing that overlearned thing instead of the thing that you were planning on doing. So um, I'm thinking of a bunch of different examples, but a great one is, let's say that you are driving home and you say to yourself, okay, my gas is getting kind of low. I usually like to, refill before I get past a quarter tank. So I'm going to stop on the way home and I'm going to get some gas. And then next thing you know, there you are in your driveway and you're like, how did I get here? I was going to stop and get gas, right? The well-practiced action of just driving straight home takes over, even when you had told yourself very effortfully, I need to get gas. I need to stop. I did that like 3 days in a row one week. I'm like, I got to get gas. I usually like to fill up when I'm at half a tank so that I can boost myself through these kinds of capture errors, because I do this kind of frequently where I say, I need to stop on the way home. I'm getting to half a tank. Okay, so I need to stop. I'm like at 3/8 of a tank. Okay, I need to stop. I'm at a quarter of a tank. Literally 3 days in a row, failed to stop. And sadly, passed several gas stations. It's not like I didn't have any options. Didn't have to go out of my way. They were on the way home. The problem was once I got into the car, this initial sequence of get in the car, drive home was launched. Start listening to my book on tape, and next thing you know, I'm in the driveway. That's what we call a capture error. A data-driven error is when external events cause the inappropriate activation of a schema, a word I haven't defined for you guys yet, and force an unwanted behavior. Okay, so a schema is a mental framework that we all carry around with us. We all develop them based on our own experiences in the world. These schemas help us to understand things that we're seeing or hearing or whatever. They help us to make sense of the world. They help us to store information, retrieve information. Like, they're really super helpful. But what can go wrong is that we can activate the wrong schema. And that can cause this data-driven error where we initiate the wrong behavior because we're in the wrong schema. Something caused us to think of the wrong schema or to misunderstand what's going on right now. And so that activated the wrong schema, something like that. Great example, accidentally typing what you just heard. That is a good example of a data-driven error. I'm writing my paper and my sibling is watching something on YouTube and I can hear it. I'm tuning it out. I'm trying not to pay attention to it, right? But next thing you know, I just typed whatever was just said on the YouTube video my brother's listening to. And it's like, what was that? That's a data-driven error. So if you are, and I'm imagining that a person who can type automatically and not have to really think about things too hard, that makes it much more likely that you'll accidentally type what you're listening to rather than what you're trying to compose from your mind or you're trying to type off of a piece of paper. Data-driven error. Associative activation error. The intention to do or say something activates a strongly related but inappropriate schema. I'll give an example of saying something. So this happens every time my husband gets off the phone with his sister, Ingrid. He starts calling me Ingrid. That's the craziest thing. Or he'll be talking about what he was talking with her about. He'll tell me, whatever her story is, and then call her Jill. And it's like, why are you calling your sister Jill? The intention to talk about, the problem is, his sister and I are similar ages. We both have similar, types of hair. We, his intention to talk about his sister activates his schema for woman who looks like this, and next thing you know, he mislabels it. We're not going to go down the Freudian road. Okay, let's not even talk about that. We're just going to assume it's an associative activation error. He does it all the time. And you'll notice this with grandparents. A lot of times grandparents will call their grandkids by their own children's names because, for a grandparent, seeing your grandkids does remind you of what your children look like at that age and how they acted and these kinds of things. And so next thing you know, you're calling your grandchild by your child's name. And then it makes it sound like, you're kind of doddering and you can't remember that this is another generation, but it's, it's that associative activation error. The last time I saw a child who acted like this was my own child. And so this is why I'm making this associative error where I'm labeling my grandchild by my child's name. So those are good examples of saying, but you can also imagine with doing, right? Where you start to, you're making a sandwich with peanut butter and jelly, and the peanut butter, at least in my world, comes out of the cupboard and the jelly comes out of the refrigerator. And you may make an associative activation error where you put the peanut butter in the fridge and the jelly into the cupboard, right? Where, you're, they're related. I'm putting away the components of this sandwich making, but I put them into the wrong places, right? They're similar, but they're wrong. All right, let's take a little break and let you enjoy a great association error in Friends, and then we will come back and talk some more.